Last month, I had a chance to play a bit of Scorn, like the opening hour, doing a bunch of the puzzles, exploring the creepy environments, and to be perfectly honest, I really didn't like it. I just found the game itself to be rather boring overall. But now the game has actually been released, I've beaten the full version of it, and I have to say, now that I've experienced the combat, the world, the later sections, I have to say that I'm still mostly just confused by it. But let's talk about that. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, if this video hits 3,000 likes, I am going to be giving away a copy of Scorn over on my Twitter account. So, a couple years back, there was this big debate on the internet that asked, do video games need to be fun? I mean, these are definitely entertainment. They're meant to distract, they're meant to be flashy, they're meant to be interesting, but if video games are truly art, not all art is fun. Some art is just challenging, some art is creepy, some art is meant to be boring. This game is not fun. This game is, in a lot of ways, very, very poorly built. But I do think that from an aesthetic appearance, Scorn is certainly beautiful to look at. So in a lot of my videos, I very much enjoy getting a chance to pick apart a particular universe, actually analyzing the writing, the cutscenes, all the different elements of the story itself. Whereas with Scorn, this game is very different because it's completely silent. There is absolutely no dialogue, there's no villainous exposition, there's just basically you as a naked human wandering around these very, very scary hallways, trying to solve the next puzzle, hopefully progress, and possibly escape. Now, I will say that before I start to dig into the big pile of negatives, I want to say that the best part of Scorn is definitely the environments itself. This game is utterly gorgeous. I played through this on PC, and I have to say that every bit of this, from the weird, gooey architecture to the just living puzzles we have to try and tinker with, to even the monsters themselves, this is a game that manages to be grotesquely gorgeous. I mean, so much of this game just kind of impressed me with how much it managed to convey, with like rib cage doorways, huge, gigantic artifices, huge structures that look like churches to macabre dead gods. And even among that, I like the fact that you kind of feel this lost sense of dread throughout the entirety of Scorn. It took me about 8.5 hours to finish this game in total, including my many, many deaths, because the game is brutal in a couple sections that kind of break. But for the most part, Scorn is a game that sort of encourages you to stare at the walls, to see the veins creeping up a particular archway, and just say, what's actually going on? I think that is the biggest credit to this. But let me talk about the downside of it. This is a very strange game where when I found myself just exploring like weird sections of what seemed to be practically underwater areas where I know I'm on dry land, but there's blood dripping up, or just wandering across the surface of what seems to be a completely derelict, desolate planet. This is gorgeous. This is seriously so haunting. It's so freaking deeply unsettling. This works. The problem is that once the combat starts, the game completely falls apart. This game is technically a first-person shooter insofar as the fact that it takes place from the first-person perspective and you do have a gun. But it definitely is trying to be more of a survival horror experience. You get very little ammunition. There's very little health. Enemies do a lot of damage to you. A lot of the hallways and stuff try and trap you with monsters, and you have to kill them in order to progress. But this is also the biggest downside to it. Because of this incredibly limited resources, I found myself dying quite a bit. Now, I have no problems with game overs or getting put back to the previous checkpoint, as long as your death feels fair. I play a lot of Dark Souls, I play a lot of other much better survival horror games, even weird indie ones and stuff, happen to balance this a lot better than this game does. Now you might be saying, oh, Dreamcast guy, you just suck at the game. My problem is that this game tries to stretch out the tiny bits of health and ammunition way too much. The gameplay loop of Scorn works as you're going from puzzle area to puzzle area. There's essentially these big hubs where you'll see like a big door that needs to be opened, an organic lock that you need to slowly get, like a key that grows bit by bit with bone and sinew as you dig it into different macabre areas you're going to have to explore. It makes it where you do have this fun exploration, and a lot of this gets completely killed when suddenly 15 monsters come out of the wall and you have 9 different bullets. Now, my biggest problem with this is that you cannot manually save. The only thing that exists is these checkpoints, and if you get an auto checkpoint when you have 1 health, you are stuck at 1 health. Since the healing areas are so spread out, the bullet refill points are so freaking randomly placed, there are big chunks of this game where I straight up just had no ammunition and I had to use my little stupid hammer piston thing to just beat these guys up one by one. In fact, for about 80% of this game, I would just hide around a corner whenever I could and just systematically try and pick these guys off one by one. But also, the game is incredibly glitchy. Sometimes these guys, if they get a lock on and start shooting their acid projectiles, they'll just kill you through the wall. If you get an auto checkpoint and you're at 1 health, that means you have to perfectly play through an entire big section of the game without ever getting touched ever. There were multiple long sections where I would play through like a 10-minute level, I'd die right as I got the key, and I'd have to do the level again, and I'd have to do this over and over and over. Repeating content is not fun, especially if it's like before a cutscene. There was times where I had to like open up a door. It's a very slow animation of me opening the door, and then 5 monsters spawn, and I keep killing 4 of them, and then I die on the 5th guy because I only have a couple bullets. This became incredibly frustrating, and it kept making me think of better balanced survival horror games. Typically, the best survival horror is what we call save 1 bullet, meaning the games that are all about conservation, of making sure you're keeping your ammo alive, keeping your health pack stocked. And doing that means skipping fights, dodging enemies, trying to escape whenever possible. The problem is that in Scorn, this is such a tiny set of hallways, little teeny tiny narrow paths where you have to fight or die, and as soon as you die, you get kicked back to the previous checkpoint. Now this brings me to 2 separate points. First off, that the combat itself just doesn't feel good. You have only 4 different weapons in the game. All of them are pretty weird. I mean, they're like these weird gooey attachments to your arm stump gun thingy. So you have like kind of a pistol, kind of a shotgun, kind of a super gun. I mean, a lot of these things just feel really weirdly balanced when you're going against bigger, beefier enemies. And honestly, because you get flooded with tiny foes sometimes. These are not responsive. If you move, it reduces the accuracy of these guns and stuff like that. During my entire playthrough, I never found myself getting excited, wanting to cheer, never feeling that thrill of actually beating a foe, even if it was a big mech or something like that. It always just felt like, yay, I get to progress. And that brings me to the other thing, which is that the puzzles are very repetitious. Typically, each of the different hubs has a thing that'll introduce you to, like a big style of puzzle that you're going to repeat over and over and over again. Like, oh, here's a clock puzzle where you actually have to turn these dials and get all the lights to turn on. Keep in mind, you're going to be doing this puzzle again and again and again with slightly different solutions. Oh, here's like a turning puzzle where there's like a little turning gear thing. Hope you like that puzzle because you're going to be doing it again and again and again. Repetition is what Scorn is actually about. Great environments and repeated content to the point of which it just becomes dreary. I feel bad bagging on this game because it must have been done by like 10 dudes. Like there's no way that any actually decently sized dev team worked on this. It feels like everybody worked on the art and then Daryl in the basement tried to make the gameplay. And I feel terrible about that because really they could have done more with this. I think maybe either hire an outside team to work on the combat, have somebody else try and make these puzzles fun. This is just a very confusing project, and even after having seen all of it, I really do not know who this is for. I mean, it's on Game Pass. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to download it on Game Pass and claim it's the best Xbox game of all time. I don't know. This is not for me. As a horror fan, I don't like it. As a survival horror fan, I definitely don't like it. As a puzzle game fan, I don't like that the puzzles suck. This is just the best version of an interactive wallpaper simulator. But honestly, don't pay any money for it. Well, okay, so we've heard some good and some bad. Let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Scorn a 4 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Also, I do a lot of different reviews. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do it. I've got a lot of big secret projects coming up that I think you're going to be very interested in, including an actually good horror game. We're going to be talking about the Resident Evil 8 DLC very, very soon. So be ready for that. Love you guys very much. Have a great day, and bye. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.